When was the last time you were excited about a comic book? For some reason, somehow, we are in a world where the most exciting, dynamic, cool, and well known characters that America has ever conceived Superman, Batman, Spider Man, Wolverine, etc., on and on for literally hundreds and hundreds of these characters. And yet, the comics that spawned them and act as the base canon for their existence are incredibly dull, if not outright bad. No one is excited for comics anymore. New releases, new number ones, things like that are all dull and unexciting. And even big hitters like Batman with the best possible talent available are just fine. How did we get here? And what do we do? Hope to answer both of these questions, starting with the first. How did comics get to their current state? Well, I feel like most things, this was a gradual process. I don't think it's an exaggeration to say that comics peaked in the 80s and 90s. Sales from this era would certainly lead one to that conclusion, following probably the best overall stories coming from the 80s like Dark Knight Returns, Watchmen, etc., heavy hitters like Frank Miller and Alan Moore. These were made by professionals with passion for their stories, putting our characters in new and unique situations while keeping the core of the characters intact, and also creating new heroes and new stories that expand comics as we know them and have changed the medium forever. A lot of money was made, a lot of professionals made a name for themselves, but even then the cracks for what was to come were shown. When a number of creators broke away from Marvel and DC to create Image Comics, one creator, Todd McFarlane of Spawn fame, made the comment that Marvel's editors were stifling creativity. You had the freedom to do what you wanted when no one was reading the title, but as soon as it got big and popular and got eyes on it, the big brother mentality appeared, and creativity was greatly restricted. These stories now needed to be safe. This mentality, I believe, never went away, and throughout the 2000s and especially now, what came before could never come again, as that type of creativity is not what the big two want. So, what do they want? Well, if we look at what they're producing, apparently they want to flood the shelves, quality over quantity, with political agendas that only go one direction, writers with no knowledge or respect for previous creators or for the previous creations, safe stories that always end up being bland, boring, non-action oriented, with increasingly bad art. And the readers notice this. We're not morons, right? And so sales go down, but the witless and stupid leaders who are still too scared to actually tell good stories insist on just rebooting it, right? Cancel the series, make a new number one, and then infuse some cash into that as immediate popularity rises, and push the same slop as before until the readers catch on and stop reading, and then we do it again and again and again with increasing frequency. I think at this pace, by 2030, we'll have a reboot of Spider-Man like every 15 seconds or something like that. And these garbage writers, mostly women, are happy to go along with it, not because they love comics and the characters, it's quite the opposite. Because they hate comics, they hate the characters, and they would much rather tear down what came before and self-insert themselves because they really do believe in their narcissistic minds that they are superior to you, the reader, and that you should be ashamed of liking anything else. So instead of action-packed, compelling stories, written and drawn by professionals, where our beloved characters are developed and grow and are cherished, we get bland, boring stories, characters demasculinized, lectured, disrespected, and destroyed. Which is all not meant for the character, of course, it's meant for you. Flood the shelves with garbage that directly is meant to be a message and a threat to the people who like comics and like the way that they were. No wonder most big creators nowadays have moved to independent comics, creating original characters, which in turn leave the big two with less qualified people, which drives more pros out, and on, all by design. I'm certainly no great household name yet, but compare the slop that Marvel is pushing versus my own independent comic Cardinal, bringing back action that you literally do not see anymore in the big two, and have actual stories with real characters that grow and change and won't be rebooted or spend the entire comic eating and giving lectures or telling you how to think. And I'm certainly not alone. The independent market is full of these stories, though of course I do believe that I do it particularly well, but here is the only space left where creators can create in the independent market. So mark my words, Marvel and DC will continue the death spiral they are in. It's the only way they can go, as there's no incentive to do otherwise. Again, it's exactly the opposite for creators, right? They're pushing out the experienced ones to bring in the ones who hate you. Comics will not be exciting, and if that's what you want, you're going to have to leave. I know it can be weird as a comic fan not going to the big two and not relying on Batman or Spider-Man or whoever to be your weekly escape, but they've left you behind a long time ago, and you probably know that. So I'd say look to the indie comics, many great stories with a greater diversity than the big two, and each comic bot is much more impactful to the creator than to these huge companies. And again, Marvel and DC today do not deserve your business. Simple as that. So for now, the sales will go down until excitement improves, but I doubt it will happen unless these companies really do lose it all. In the end, it's for their own